So, the Buddhist view, what is it that Buddhists believe in? Does Buddhists believe in karma? Yes. Does Buddhists believe in doing good things? Yeah. I'm sort of demonstrating sort of this inner attitude towards the view is like this. Does Buddhists believe in hell realm? Yeah. God realm? Yeah. It's a bit like this. Come on, be serious. You must have a belief. What is it? So you are squeezing now, isn't it? Well, this is what the Buddhists would think or say. Buddhists will say, if you have a wrong view, impartial view, incomplete view, or lopsided view, you will suffer. You understand? That much they will say. If you have a wrong view, yes, that will lead you to disappointment. This much, quite sure, they will. But even that, a very seasoned Buddhist will say very reluctantly. Now, we are talking in a very sort of fine-tuned version of Buddhist view now. Because of that, Shantideva said, Dunghal nyevar shidendu devi mongpa do mija. This actually sums up one of the greatest, this really sums up the Buddhist attitude towards view. Shantideva said, one of the greatest commentator from the Nalanda University, he said, Buddhists can have one ignorance for the time being, only for the time being. And what is that? To think that there is an enlightenment. And why so? Why should I have that, ignorance? To think that there is an enlightenment? Because I see you are in pain. You are suffering. You have anxiety. You are not satisfied. That's why. You have to, sort of shrug yourself out. You have to come out from that pain and the cause of pain. That's why. This is a very important statement. Okay, now to articulate this further, to begin with, it's a bit like this. Okay, you are falling from a cliff, and your hands are tied, and you just manage to grab a branch by your teeth, and somebody is walking. You see this, and then now what do? You can't say help, because the moment you say help, you have fallen. It's a bit like this. To teach the Buddhist view, the moment you speak, you make mistakes. And by the way, this is what Siddhartha Gautama, after his so-called enlightenment, awakened to the state, he actually said, I have found a brilliant, profound, vast, uncompounded, a truth. But no one would hear it. But then the story is that his disciple, Brahma and Indra, came and requested him to teach. And when they requested, he said, they told him that there are so many beings who are tormented by the suffering caused by delusions, and through your great compassion and your wisdom and skillful means, please liberate them step by step in different ways, with different means. And that's how supposedly the Buddha Dharma began teaching, beginning in a place called Saranath, Varanasi. Historical, this is. So, in other words, trying to articulate something that cannot be articulate. So in the Buddhist philosophical system, they invented certain discipline or a certain structure to understand this view, okay? And actually quite a lot, structures. And I think this time we will try to use what we call two truth. Many of you you know this. I see a lot of old Buddhists here, those who have gone to many of my own teachings, let alone, not to mention many other teachings. For many of you, this will be very, very familiar and probably even jaded with this information, hearing it again and again. But on the other hand, it is always important. It's always refreshing and reminding. It's a reminder. It can help. Okay. Now this view, remember, and this time I'm going to use the horn and the tail example a little bit so that you can comprehend what I'm talking. Now, let's say you have taken this pill or mushroom or whatever, and then you have the horn experience, and then you have the tail experience. And let's say you're really going through panic. You're really paranoid, panic. Anxiety. It's not right. It's not nice to have a horn. It's not nice to have a tail. Especially, there's a lot of things at stake. And you have a lot of things, agendas. More agendas you have, more plans you have, the horn and the tail are going to bother you more. If you don't have much plan, it doesn't really matter. So let's say you have somebody and you just took that pill and you really forgot. You forgot the fact that you don't have horn. You understand? You forgot. You somehow, it just, it's strong. When the effect of the substance hits you, you really forget this truth that you actually don't have. I don't know whether you can relate to this. Yes, many Australians, you would. You just forget. You are more into this. You are sweating. Your hands are in sweat, and you understand. Now, this is important. Now, suddenly, I don't know, a wind blow, and the window bang. I don't know, or someone flushed the toilet. The sound. Or your phone rings, takes you to the reality. You understand? Oh, phone rings. Not too bad. Maybe this is not true. You understand? Coming back to the real truth, you wake, because the phone rings. You touch. Yeah, no tail. But then you also still feel, because the impact is still there. But then you think, maybe it's not happening. No words, no language necessary. Through that, through the ringing of a phone or a window banging, through that or more likely, I don't know, your wife or a husband or your dog just came, and that make you realize you don't actually have horn and tail. Okay? I'm talking about something quite exotic in a way. I'm talking about a blessing, so-called blessing. Have you heard? We will not talk about this too much here because it's not really the time. What I'm talking about is the view, the truth. To realize this truth, actually there is some amazing way. But to really appreciate this amazing way or the amazing coincidence or I don't know, amazing, incredible cause and condition, you need to be you need to be sober, sort of partially sober at least. You need to be sort of daring. You need to be critical at the same time receptive. You understand? So we hear stories like in the Buddhist stories like Telopa just hitting the Naropa's head. That's it. He gets it. Or, that's Tantra, so let's not talk about it. Tantra is too risky these days. So let's not talk about this anyway. Even in the Mahayana, there's a stories about how, Buddha picked up a lotus and looked at it and smiled. And guys like Kashyapa gets it. Gets what? Gets no horn, no tail, basically. That's what he got it. Oh, okay. No tail, no horn, actually. Just the fact that Buddha picked up a lotus flower and smiled. There's many, many accounts like this. And little bit less than that, there are also some other, I think this is very much in the Mahayana tradition, especially in the Zen tradition. They ask very ridiculous, strange questions. And through that questions, the one who has this, dilemma gets it. Okay? So there we are talking about a very, very particular way of getting that right view. Again, now I'm using the right view. Bear in mind, the aim of Buddhism is to get away from the view. But for the time being, since we realize having a wrong view is only going to lead us to the pain, at least let's have a right view. So we are talking about the right view. And achieving that right view, if you are someone who has a special faculties, you can get it through the sight of a dead leaf falling. Now I know it sounds really mystical, but it's actually not. It's really not. It's just a cause and condition. It can happen. Even in actually in our mundane life, I think it happens. I'm not talking about sort of a spiritual experience. Just like shifting of your ideas, shifting of your value. It happens. I don't know. Okay, but anyway, that is special, but is very individual and is very subjective. We don't know. Okay, so practically, academically, intellectually, scientifically, more, as a human, what can we do to really actualize that truth? Buddhists have only found 3 ways: hearing, contemplation, and meditation. That's the only way for people like us. In other words, we need to use language. Hearing, language. We are not happy about it. It's not like hearing is so, like holy or something. It's out of it's out of no choice, reluctantly. In order to get rid of the suffering, we need to this is because this is the only way. Somebody need to say, it's okay, don't worry, calm down. It helps. And then once you come down, someone says, can you feel it on your head? Why don't you put on your hat? See, it fits on your head. Don't you think that means that you have no horn? Logic. Logic is always like this. It's very pathetic. It's actually really vague. Logic. And it's vague and it's limited, very limited, but nevertheless, it works. So only thing we can use is hearing, contemplation, and meditation. I keep on using the word meditation, which I really don't like, but we will talk about that tomorrow more. So what's happening right now is we are doing the hearing, meaning we use logic. And yes, in the Buddhist philosophy study, there's a big section where we study Buddhist logic a lot. It's not that. Logic is something that we really trust. We always have a little bit of this, underneath. There's a little bit of a mistrust. In fact, there's a guy called Chandakirti. He actually has a very different attitude with the logic. He said, well, I don't have my logic. but I'm going to use your logic to defeat you. And this system became a really, really popular system in Tibet. It's called Prasangika Madhyamika. They call it consequentialist. It's really famous. I don't know, something to think about, especially those who have studied. It's something that you need, something to think about, especially philosophy students, or I don't know, history. I've always thought, because I don't know so much about Western thoughts and history, and but a little bit that I heard, rationalism, right? Rationalism. I have a feeling that after rationalism, the West should have invited Chandrakirti, because he was very critical towards rational logic. He sees faults in that. I think there's someone called what? I forgot his name. Karl Popper, right? Karl Popper. Anyway, let's not get too intellectual here. Okay, so using the technique of a hearing and contemplation, when we use this, then Buddhists have invented the idea of what we call relative truth and ultimate truth. Okay, now let's use the horn and tail analogy. In the horn and tail analogy, relative truth is basically what goes through the mind of the person who has taken the hallucinogenic substance. He can feel it. It's really bothering him. So it's true to him. And in fact, if more than 51% of Australians takes hallucinogenic mushrooms every day, your parliament will be different. You understand? Because relative truth is got a lot to do with senses. And I don't know, like a quantity. Consensus, I don't know, the percentage. But nevertheless, the Buddhist idea is it's okay. It's respected. This is what you think. This is what you see. But the absolute truth is, in the absolute level, the horn and the tail does not exist. Oh, I need to define this. Actually, it's not exist. On the most absolute level, it's neither there is not even a talk about it does exist before and it does not exist later. Because it's simply the whole burden of the existence of the tail or not is obsolete. It's fundamentally not there. Only someone who took the substance can talk about, after you take the substance, you have the horn and the tail. And then when the substance's impact is waning, then it's slowly moving. Only on that level you can talk about the existence of the tail or not. So that's the absolute view and the relative view. I'm sorry to have to speak like this, because I wish I can sort of water down this and simplify this, but there's also a danger of making it too simple and I don't know, sort of the core essence and the authenticity of Buddhism gets lost. We need to approach it this way. Okay, so anyway, there's relative truth and ultimate truth. Bear in mind, the distinctions of the relative truth and the ultimate truth is only for the sake of conversation, for the sake of creating a path, to lay out some sort of a path. And why do we need a path? Because we need to achieve the result. And what is the result? Remember, not something to get, something to get rid of. You already have the head. You don't need to get it. You need to get rid of the horn. Or no horn, actually, both. We will talk. Now this so this is a paradoxy. This is the sort of how it is, the whole world, whole phenomena, the paradoxy between the relative truth and the ultimate truth. The fact that, this is another thing. Okay, maybe I'm confusing this too much. We were talking about Abrahamic approach. Here, there's something to think about. Not only the Abrahamic approach, most of the modern approach to study anything, science, technology, I guess, physics, the methodology to study the truth does not have obvious distinctions of relative truth and ultimate truth. Definitely most of the religion, I think, I don't know, this is just an assumption, I may be wrong, so please correct me. Most of the religion, they seem to, in my view, they seem to claim whatever they are teaching is ultimate truth. You understand? Ultimate truth. I will tell you more example. Whereas in Buddhism, not all the teachings are ultimate truth. In other words, there are lots of Buddhist teachings that are taught by the Buddha and he never meant it. It's all in the category of, it's okay, don't worry, remember? It's okay, just drink some water, as if the water is going to shrink the horn, the non-existing horn. There's a lot of that. And under this section falls all these teachings of things like meditation, things like karma, things like reincarnation. All these teachings falls under that. There are teachings that are taught by the Buddha that he really meant it, taken literally, such as, like there are many sutras, such as the Hat Sutra, Prajanaparamita Sutra, like Vimalakiti Sutra, Vajrachedika Sutra. There are quite a lot, but even that, amidst these Absolute Sutras, there's so many relative teaching. I'm going to illustrate this a little bit. Okay, so it's like this. You go to a place like even the most, pure or fundamental Buddhist teachings are taught, such as Thailand or Sri Lanka, because that's where the Theravada Buddhism is taught. Theravada Buddhism is the oldest, most fundamental, the root of Buddhism, actually, the most really important. Now, if you go there, you can observe something very, very paradoxical, very contradicting. There, the monks will teach you teachings such as Abhidharma, where teachings such as Anatta is taught. And in the teachings of Anatta, we hear there is no self. There is no self. But then, these Theravadins are the ones who are crazy about conduct, ethic, discipline, robes, merit, begging alms. You are supposed to offer alms, so on, and bow down. You can't do this, you can't do that. There is just so much of that. Can you see the contradiction? Even in the most pure, fundamental Buddhist traditions, you find this. Why? Why is it like that? Because the Buddhist view of relative truth and the ultimate truth, and they are actually in union. This is always the challenge. It's always the challenge. Now, if you shift to places like Tibet or Bhutan, it's really, really so confusing. You meet monks who have shaved their head as if the hair, something is wrong with hair. They zealously, diligently shave their hair as part of their discipline. But right there are yogis who only worries about dropping hair. They keep their hair. Every lock of hair, they say, is like dakinis, is like mandalas, blah, 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 all that. So they keep their hair. Some of them, they keep hair throughout their whole lives. I don't know whether you have seen any of this really smelly and really, really long, big dreadlock. Perfectly fine for Buddhism. It's not a, it's really a non-dual view. That's why it's permeating all this culture, all this sort of Buddhist lifestyle, if you like. The lifestyle or the symbolism, even symbolism. I have said this many times before. Like if you go to a Buddhist temple, there are iconography or monks, serene, simple, renounced monks or nuns image are very much venerated. The idea that a savior, a master, especially a spiritual master, has to be serene, simple, renounced, ascetic, begging bowl, bare feet. There's a lot of that in the Buddhist temples. Especially in Tibet, on another side, there are not so serene figures, wrathful deities, not so, simple, bodhisattvas, earring, nose ring, anklets, adorned with all sorts of garments. And then, if it is a tantric temple, there are some amazing figures which are also equally venerated and appreciated, and many many followers. Can you imagine now? I'm trying to, I don't know if you can imagine. Okay, so you are a follower, and you are looking at a three example now. There's a Saint Francis of Assisi, like Shariputra, and then there is a limousine driving, gold ring, gold-plated teeth, I don't know, really like multi-millionaire Avalokiteshvara here. And then there is like a prostitute, half-time prostitute, half-time arrow maker, something like that, like a Sarahas guru. Okay, so you have these three. Now, as a follower of Buddhism, can you see? But it fits in the mind of people who can appreciate the culture of non-duality. Why? Because the view of Buddhism is so much to do with going back to the horn and the tail. Is the horn there? Yes, it's there, but it's also not there at the same time. Is the tail there? Yes, it's there, but it's also not there at the same time. This union of appearance and emptiness is called. This is one of the most important way to understand the Buddhist view. That everything is basically, it's there, but it's not there. It's really difficult to understand, not intellectually, habitually. You are looking at me right now, and actually I'm here, but also not there. How can you, it's difficult. Oh, he's there, he's sitting there, he's talking non-stop. When is he going to stop talking? Like this. Because why? You have drunk something. You have been eating something endlessly. That's why, even worse than your horn and tail, I'm here in your mind. This. But by the way, it's not too foreign though. It's not too foreign. This kind of experience does exist. I mean, just like the hallucinogenic experience, like when you are watching movies, whatever is happening in the movie, it's there, and therefore it really makes you cry, it makes you angry, it makes you feel nervous, it makes you feel suspenseful, so on and so forth. But you also know it's not there. And what does it do? It releases you from a lot of unnecessary problems. For instance, while you are watching a movie, if you need to go to the toilet, you go, don't you? You don't hold it back and say, now I have to sort this out. Because you know it's there, but it's not there. And especially you can pause it these days. And you can even rewind it and play it back. Because you know it's there, but it's not there. That's why you are awakened Buddha. Enlightened from this delusion of thinking is there or not there. So I need to really express this first, because this is a sort of the more classic way to understand the Buddhist view. I'm going to sort of what do you call it, break it down a little bit. I'm sure there are a lot of completely new to Buddhist path here. So for their sake, those who have received many Buddhist teachings, you have to bear with me a little bit. But this is really important to know. The Buddhist view the fact that is there, but it's not there. This view is taught using many inadequate language, but we have no choice. One such language is everything is illusion. You have heard this many times. This is one of the Buddhist view. Many people present it that way. That in Buddhism, life is an illusion. It's fine this way, but you have to be careful, because I think the way we are conditioned, when we hear the word illusion, it immediately comes to a conclusion that it does not exist. But that's not what Buddhists are saying. Always go back to it's there, but it's not there. Another approach of when we hear the Buddhist view is that shunyata, emptiness. Everything is emptiness. Again, this has led a lot of people to a lot of misunderstanding. Especially if you read classic sutras such as no nose, no eyes, no ears. It really sounds like a negation. But as I said, as I give you the example of somebody fallen from the cliff, but managing to grab one branch with teeth, it's like this. All words are not good. But when I say this again, you may immediately think a truth must be something mythical, mystical, something very sort of exotic somewhere. No. We are not talking about that at all. We are talking about something raw, this moment, what's happening. It's fairly easy to understand intellectually, but really difficult to understand habitually. Very difficult. Because many reasons. Lots and lots of denial, and lots of cause and conditions to make you forget that it is there, but it is not there. In fact, all our endeavor, everything we buy, everything we possess, everything we do is somehow related to forgetting this fact that is there, but at the same time is not there. So we face a situation, we look at something, or we encounter something. It depends. Okay, you are encountering something. And then the first experience, okay, so remember, it's really difficult to talk. Okay, it's there and it's not there. You know, even though they are one, it's the same thing. It's like a reflection of the moon in the water. It's there and it's not there. At the same time, and it's exactly one thing. But the Okay, we are talking about a view. So when we talk about a view, we are talking about a viewer, the subject. So depending on the subject, when the subject faces something, sometimes you end up stumbling to it's not their part first. You understand? Okay, if you are really good at it, you can swallow it together because you know it's one. But if you are really not good at it, first thing you encounter is it's not there. What does it do? It makes you nihilist, hopeless, depressed. It's not there. You become critical. You begin to read things like Nietzsche. You will smoke cigar, drink thick coffee. All that comes out of that. Broadly speaking, sweeping statement, I always say. And, like brooding, everything, like, I know, very kind of, like deductive. And you feel very kind of, or it's very strange actually. Many times we also feel very proud of being nihilist, proud of having that kind of negative, nihilistic depression. It's a style. It's almost like this kind of people have a different, unique smell also. They have their lifestyle. They have a different wall hang-ups. They have a different kinds of perfume they wear. I'm serious. There's shoes. They wear different shoes. They hang out with that kind of people. They love each other, but they also hate each other because the other one is more nihilist than you. You understand? Sometimes in our life, or some people, when they face a life, first thing they encounter is their part. They fall into eternalist. Then they become righteous. They become righteous. They become maybe fascist. They become, I don't know, they end up becoming believer of things like free speech. They end up becoming believer of things like democracy. They become, they have their style. You should, observe this. You can almost tell, if you're good at it, you can almost tell that's a right nihilist person, or that's an eternalist person. It's a bit like, the liberal and conservative. You can almost tell who is who. But sometimes things get confusing because in the morning, you are the nihilist. But in the evening, you become eternalist. And it really, it permeates every aspect of our life. This okay, what we will do is we will take a break and then we come back with some question and answer.